Hello, everybody. Just moving some stuff around here last minute, but welcome to another Tech Talk. And oh my gosh, it is coming up on end of the year, huh? Remember doing these in January. So let's see. Let's let everybody trickle in. If you are in chat, say hey. It lets me know that I'm not alone and that I have friends in chat hanging out with me. So welcome. Let's see. Let's get some setup going here. Today, we're talking about... What's up, Ali? Welcome. What's up, Ronald? Yes. Hello, everybody. Let's get the energy up. Truth be told, I am on the sleepy side today, but this is going to wake me up. This will get me going. What's up, RJ? What's up, Jan? Ronald? Team Chaco Slick. Awesome. Dublin, Roberto. Yeah, Roberto, great job. Everybody, let me know where you're coming in from. I am hailing from Las Vegas, Nevada. I actually just got back from a trip to Atlanta. I was at the React conference out there, Render ATL. First conference back in almost 2 years. Ronald, what's up? Filipino React enthusiast. I think I qualify as that also. Jan from Myanmar. Wellington fan from Brooklyn. Another Philippines. Bangladesh. Zaprillo from PH. Taco Slick is also Filipino. What's up, Sean? What's up, Samkiat? Welcome, everybody. I love it. Let's keep going. Look at this. All right. So I just got back from Render Atlanta, which is a React conference, first conference, and pretty much just got off the plane, went to bed, woke up, and now I'm here and we're doing a React getting started tutorial. So if you haven't used React, if you have used React, let me know in the chat. I love it. Look at chat going. If you have used React, let me know. If you haven't, let me know in the chat, and we'll get going here in a second. Ooh, Kenya, I love it. Daniel from Chicago, Canada, Nepal, Indonesia. Look at this. So global. I love it. Everybody all around the world. So much fun. All right, not used React yet. Open Source Life, welcome. Nathan, welcome. All right, let's start moving. Everybody keep going in chat. I love it so much. Check that out. And just like that, I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm ready to go. So today we're talking about getting started with React. And React in the last, 5 years has taken the JavaScript world by storm. It's everywhere. Every major website has some components of React. And I would argue that it is the most popular and most used JavaScript library today. And if you're looking for JavaScript jobs, React is a great place to put your bets. So why React? It's declarative, it's component-based. You learn once, write anywhere. And this is what a component looks like. That might even be outdated because they're using the class method. And we're going to be using the functional way to do it, which is the latest way to do it, the cutting edge way to do it, I would say. So we got a lot to do. React is a great piece of software and a lot we can do with it. So let's get started. What's up, Khalid from Morocco? Alexandra from Romania has used it. Nice. So there are two ways to use React. One is you throw React on top of an existing application. So you have a Laravel app or a Go or Node app or Ruby, whatever you have, and then you just throw React on top of it to add a little bit of functionality. And let me show you what that looks like. We're going to start with that side of things first. And then next, the second way you can use React, which I think is probably the more popular way to use React, is a full single page application where you just say the entire website is built with React. And that's currently how I do a lot of my work. So really a lot of fun today. Let's start off with, I'm going to keep this here. Let's see. Jan, that's a great question. Why doesn't React change its docs to the functional components? That one's beyond me. I think it's been long enough, right? It's been like a year and a half since the functional way of things. So Very interesting. All right, let's see. I am going to change this over to presentation mode. No, sorry, I want professor mode. Here we go. Professor mode. And the cool thing about professor mode in CodePen is I'm going to start building out a little React app here. If you go to this link, which I'll paste in chat, you can actually click into this and from your computer see everything that I'm doing. And whenever you want, you can fork it over and start playing around with it and then come back to the application. So I'm going to paste this in chat here. And we'll get started working with React. So if you haven't used React, let's see what a normal website looks like. So let's say we have a website here. We're going to say header. I am the site nav. Let's go with a main, and let's go with I am the main content. And I hope that's large enough. Let's go that way. And then we have footer. Let's say I am footer. Cool. So we don't need CSS for this demo. Right on, 25 in here. This is cool. I use CodePen Professor mode a few times and nobody ever clicks the link. So thank you for clicking the link. So here we are. I am the main content. Let's say we wanted to have a little bit of extra functionality. Let's say we wanted to have a little search bar in our sidebar. So we'll have an aside right here. And we wanted a little functionality. So right here, we could do a little bit of functionality like search box or whatever it is. Functional thing goes here. And I'll go div ID is cool dash thing. So we have an existing HTML server-side rendered application, and we want a little bit of JavaScript functionality here. So if we're doing this with just JavaScript, we're going to show something like this. Const message is equal to, hey there, Hare Krishna. So we have a little bit of data. Now let's display it with JavaScript. So I have this div ID cool thing. We're going to go document.get element by ID cool dash thing. Inner text is equal to message. And there we go. Now we have some data injected into our app using JavaScript. And you might be wondering, okay, well, Chris, when in the world would I be doing this, right? And that's a valid question. We don't really just insert just random text. So what you would probably do is say something like this. Function, get data, or like, let's say get popular posts. You would do a fetch to your API/posts/popular or something like that, popular. And then you would go here, .then, res.json, .then, data. And then in here is where you would finally inject all that stuff into your DOM. So really what we're doing here is a lot of JavaScript to get data, or if we have data, and then we're just going to inject it into the DOM, into the HTML. And really, if you think about it, that's what web development is these days, is getting data from some source, injecting it into the browser so that our users can see it. And then the third part to that is adding the interactivity where we say, hey, is anybody going to click our page? Is anybody going to use an input field on our page? And then we just do the loop again. We go get new data, we display new data, and then we wait for new interactions. So with that in mind, this is JavaScript, right? We do get the data right here, and then we inject the data right here. So this is easy enough, but let's say we start getting into multiple different places where we have to inject this data. Let's say we had a couple different cool things. Let's say we had popular posts. We had recent posts. And we had, I don't know, not latest, but I don't know, most liked. So now all of this gets duplicated 3 times, right? Because now with JavaScript, we have 3 different things. We have to name them differently. Well, React can let us write all of this in like way less lines, maybe like 5 lines, which is really cool. So we'll talk about the conversion over from vanilla JavaScript over to React right now. So let's delete that. I'm going to go back to calling this cool thing. Oh, cool thing. Wellington fan has a question. Are we going to make this available? Yes. Actually, if you actually pull this link and then this link will always be live. So you can actually change this to the word pen, and that would be the permanent link for this code pen. So let me paste this link again in chat if you all want to join. Okay, so let's start our very first React application. Let's say we wanted to inject some JavaScript into here. The first thing that we need to do with React is actually go get the React library. To do that in CodePen, I'm going to use this little settings button here. And we see add external scripts /pens. And I'm going to say React. And we want 2. So we're going to want this React one right here. And that's the main JavaScript React library. But we're also going to want React DOM. Now, React DOM is the second library that we need that is specific to the DOM, which is the document object model. In our case, we can think of it as the browser. So we're going to add React first. But that won't be enough to work with our site. We're going to need React-DOM. And the reason they separated the two is because you can do cool stuff now with like React Native, where you can target mobile apps. Here, we're going to target the browser for this application. Galang, you are not late. What's up, George from Greece? We are just now starting our first React application. So in the world of React, we have a concept called components. And the cool thing about this is components span everything. If you want to learn JavaScript, right now everything is component-based. So if you learn components in React, that will actually let you transfer your knowledge over to Vue. That will let you actually transfer your knowledge over to Angular, to Svelte, to any of the new JavaScript libraries. And that's what's cool about components and React, is that if you learn React, then you will for sure be able to become a better JavaScript developer. And I stand by that completely. JavaScript is closer to the JavaScript than any of the other ones. React is closer. Perfect. And I love it. Any questions here, let me know in chat and we'll take care of them either now or at the end. We have a question that I want to address now. Can we do via the CLI? So the CLI tool is called Create React App. We will be talking about that right after we use this CodePen version. So to start, I want to use the CodePen way of doing things. And then next up, we'll use the Create React App way of doing things, which is the CLI. Any recommended Webpack bundler for React? We'll talk about this in a second because we have this way of doing things, which is just adding 2 JavaScript libraries. The other way of doing it is building out a whole build system for React. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Open Source Life says Rollup. Rollup is fantastic. There's a lot of other great ones. Snowpack. Webpack. There's another one I'm missing. Oh, well. Zuhair says class or functional. We're going functional today. And let's go right into it. So let's build out our first React component. And you're going to love this if you like JavaScript. Function. My first component. This is a React component. It's a JavaScript function. Look how cool that is. So we're going to return a template. Div, I am a React component. So what we have here is a React component. We're going to have a couple things here. Functionality goes here. And then down here in the return is template goes here. So let's say template is the first thing you do, and then second is the functionality thing. And this is a React component. So the cool thing about a component is it's usually 3 parts. One is your template, which we have here. 2 is your CSS, which you could, if you wanted to, add classes here, class name right there. You could add styles right here. You could bring in Tailwind, Bootstrap, whatever you use. And the third part to a component is functionality, where we listen for users, button clicks, interactivity, and stuff like that. So let's say we had some data just like we had before. Let's say const message is equal to, hey there, Siva Sankaran. If we wanted to display this message inside of our React template, we're going to use JSX. And JSX is React's templating library. So this is where people get hung up and say, when they first start looking at React, they look at JSX and they go, no way, I'm out. And JSX was like that for me. I did not like JSX when I started. Really did not. But the more I use JSX, the better of a JavaScript developer I have become. And I 100% believe that if you use JSX, you will become a better JavaScript developer. You'll learn JavaScript at its core better. And the reason that's true is because I'm a React component right here. If I wanted to display this variable that we have called message, I'm going to say right here. Let's go right here. My message is message. And JSX uses these little brackets to signify, hey, I'm going to use JavaScript to evaluate whatever in this thing. So we have our first component right here, which is really just a JavaScript function that has a return statement here. But we haven't actually gotten this into our application. So let's go do that now. We're going to say React DOM. And this React DOM library has a render function. And it's going to take 2 parameters. The first one is what we want to render. And that's going to be this component right here. And let me show you the syntax. It's going to be like this. So you treat it as if it were just a normal HTML tag. React, as soon as it sees a JavaScript function, it goes, okay, I'm just going to give you the access to it so you can use it like this. And second is document.getElement by ID cool dash thing. So second is where you want to inject into. And there we go. We have this injected right into that location. Baruz, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you all being here and just hanging out with me, watching some React stuff. Okay, so that's our first React component. That's rendering our first React component. And now you could do this all over the place in your application if you wanted to add functionality here. If you wanted to add search in your header, you could do that there. All sorts of different things you can do. So next up, let's say I want to expand on that JSX thing more. So JSX, anything inside of these brackets, these curly brackets, is going to be evaluated by JavaScript. So if I said 1 + 2, that would actually be evaluated by JavaScript to be 3. And that's what's cool, is this is going to be JavaScript that we write in here. So next up, let's start talking about events. Because it's one thing to show data. It's a whole nother thing to react when the user does something. And that's a great question in chat from Ronald. I am a Node developer. Will I learn React easily? I think so. JavaScript will transfer from your Node language, your Node, from your Node knowledge over to your React knowledge because it's all just JavaScript. Okay, so let's talk about interactivity. Let's say I had up here, let's go down here, let's add a button up here. Button, click me. Let's say we want to listen for a click event on this button. In JavaScript, we would have to go const button is equal to document.querySelector button. And then we would add an event listener to this button by going button.add event listener. And already I'm typing way too much. Look at this. Click. We'll do a function alert. Hi, everyone. So we get the button. We listen for the event. If I click, there we go. It works. But now we're getting into a little bit of a harder concept where we get into multiple buttons, because we're probably going to want multiple buttons. Let's say this is a sign up button. We're going to have a login button. We're going to have a, I don't know, newsletter button. But now this won't work because this will apply to all three of them. So if I click that, it won't work. Or it'll all be the same event listener. It should have been. Oh, because I had to do a query selector all. So already, check it out. JavaScript kind of was too much to work with. So now that should be called buttons. This should be buttons dot for each. And then you would do buttons, button dot like that. So now we're writing even more, and this should work. Let's see. Yep. Okay, so now all of them get the buttons. And then you got to like customize each one. This was the class's sign up. This one's class is login. So now you have to differentiate. It's just too much work. React cuts this out for us. We don't have to do that. So let's see what this looks like in React. Sorry, this is so zoomed in for me. Let's delete all that. Galang is saying from Vue to React is a bit complicated. I completely understand that. Vue is for people that lean closer to the HTML side of things and less JavaScript side of things. React is for people that lean closer to the JavaScript side of things and less on the HTML, CSS side. But I totally understand that there is a little difference in their templating, which is JSX right here versus Vue's template. And that's the big differentiator between the two, I think. Average time to learn React from Ankit in the chat. I would say, well, we're coming up on, we're going to do an hour today, and this is a good start. To get a little bit further into React, I would say maybe a weekend to get some of the solid concepts down. So George says, please do forms. I don't think we'll have time today to do full-on forms, but we can definitely do that in another one because forms are tough. Forms are tough. Let's say we want to create that button now. So let's delete this right here, our first React component. Let's create a brand new button, function button. And I'm going to return a template in here. And we're going to say let's do button, sign up. Just like that. And then down here, instead of my first component, let's do button. And I'll show you a trick. We'll self-close the tag right there. So it's a little bit more readable. And we no longer need this message. Okay, so we have this. You might be thinking, hey, Chris, that's a lot more writing than we just did. But to do the click handler, check this out. We're going to go on, click is equal to, and I'm just going to pass the function right in here, alert. Hi, Lovekesh. Welcome back, Lovekesh. Let me see if I can't clean that up a little bit. No, I can't. Okay. So now we have added the event listener to React component, to a React element. And then we have here our function. If we click, it works. So right there, we have our sign up button. So right on, Ankit. Thank you for that. Jithin says a really, really good point right here. The learning curve of Vue is very low, but the ecosystem, React's ecosystem is just fantastic. It's just so good. If you want a package to do anything, you just go Google for it, and React has a package for it. All right, so I want to get into the next concept here of these components. So we have a button component, but in our earlier example, we had a sign up button, we had a login button, and we had a newsletter button. So how do we make this a little bit more Reactified so that we can create 3 buttons? Check this out. If I did this, div like this, div like this, and let's do 3 buttons just like this. Now we'll have 3 buttons rendered. And Gerardo says you can do on-click in vanilla.js. That's very true, but let me show you what React brings to the table on top of this. So let's say we wanted to differentiate these 3 buttons. Right now they all say sign up. React has a concept called props, where you can pass a component new information so that you can customize that component. So in this step right here, I'm going to say text is equal to sign up. Text is equal to login. Text is equal to, what was it, newsletter? And now we can show that data here by going like this. Props, we'll use our JSX brackets, props.text. And I wish this would just format a little bit cleaner. This is prettier doing its thing here. No, just stay like that, please. Okay. So now we have a sign up button, a login button, and a newsletter button, and all we had to do was pass in the information right here. To do this in JavaScript would have taken a little bit more work. For sure, it's possible, right? It's all possible in just plain JavaScript. The idea here is that React lets us do it, and the mental model around it is a little bit easier to understand. The code is easier to read. And this becomes even more prominent if we said message is let's get you signed up. Message right here is welcome back. And message right here is, let's say, check your inbox. And now over here in this alert, we could say props.message. So just like that, we're able to customize each click now. So this one says, let's get you signed up. This one says, welcome back. And this one says, check your inbox. So just by adjusting this component a tiny bit, we're able to use it in a couple different ways really, really quickly. To do this same stuff in JavaScript would have taken a lot longer. And I argue that you would have had some data here. So like, let's say you would have had the buttons. Button, you could do like data message is equal to blah, right? And all that stuff. But then you would have to go sit in your JavaScript and things start getting disjointed. Things start moving into different places, and that makes it harder to understand your application. So to have everything in a compartmentalized component is the benefit to components in React. Yassine with the question, what do you recommend the most, React, Vue, or Angular? I want to be political about this answer, but I recommend React. But if you aren't as strong of a JavaScript developer and you like the HTML, the CSS, and more of the templating front-end side, I would say try out Vue. If you are like a strong JavaScript developer or want to get better at JavaScript, React is a great way to do it. But really, what's cool about it is once you learn the concepts of JavaScript and components, you can jump between the two really quickly. Like all of this transferred over to Vue would take maybe 30 seconds. But yeah, I am biased. I'm a React person right now. And that's coming from, I am an Angular Google developer expert as well. So don't tell Angular. I love it. I love all the questions coming in from chat. Let me know if this is good for you. If you are liking the pacing, I think this is fun. Next up, we're going to get into 2 bigger Well, one really big component concept, which is React State, which is what we're going to do next up. And by the end of this, we're going to go get real data from a real API and display that so I can show you what a component actually, like a full component, looks like. Open Source Life says Vue.js is the best. Vue is amazing, is fantastic. I won't discount Vue. Gerardo says, I think the best of React Vue Svelte is the algorithm that checks what has changed in the DOM and only replace the difference. That is true. Gerardo, I think, hit the nail on the head. The biggest benefit of all of these is the ability for React, Vue, Angular to inject into the DOM. Notice that we never wrote any content for saying, we never wrote these lines. This is what you get rid of when you go from JavaScript to React or Vue or Angular, is when we say const button is equal to document.query selector button. So this is step one, is get the elements that we want to work with. And step two is, well, the event listener. And then step three is to add information back into the DOM, which is probably the most annoying part, where you go button.inner HTML is equal to, you would do a template string, like a new button, that whole thing. It's just not fun. So with React, you get to get rid of step one. Step two goes into the component itself, which is this right here, on click. And step three, we don't have to deal with ever, because React just goes, okay, I'm just going to inject it myself. So you get to drop all of this for this cleaner code. Gerardo says, get data from a database. We will in a second. If I have a very large project, does React support multiple pages? It does. There's a tool called React Router. Is React DOM only for a SPA? Do I need to pull in all I want to render there for a project with different HTML files? React DOM is not only for a SPA. In fact, in this example here, it is not a SPA. This is not a single page application. It is HTML, and we are only injecting React into one place, which is this sidebar section right here. Let's see. Resistance, can I recommend a good tutorial with React and TypeScript? I can't, actually. That's a good point, though. I'll write one. In what cases do I think it's best to use vanilla JavaScript instead of React? If you have very minimal functionality, if you aren't doing too much, like this is a button click, this could be okay in JavaScript. But once we get towards the end example, it probably wouldn't be best to use JavaScript. It's just JavaScript can get messy, and React forces you into writing things a certain way, which is nice. I love it. All the questions, fantastic. This is our like mid tech talk break. So keep the questions coming, and then we will go right back into coding in about like 2 minutes. I should have just brought this on screen, huh? How to combine Tailwind with React. If you go to the Tailwind docs, they have a step-by-step guide to adding Tailwind to React. It's actually really, really nice. Zeki says, is the VOD available? Yes, it will be. This video will live here on the DigitalOcean YouTube channel forever? Until YouTube goes away, maybe? So forever. Can you do another session on React hooks? Absolutely. Definitely are able to do that. George says, Node for the API, Laravel only for migrations, and React for UI. Great stack. I'm a big fan of that. Laravel on the back end, React on the front end, powerful stuff. Node as for an API is powerful stuff. Somali, yes, we can do that. Definitely. Python developer, will it be easy for me to get React? Could be a bit of a learning curve, because you have to learn JavaScript to learn React. But I think a lot of your concepts will transfer variables and the like. Taras has the great lead-in question. React looks perfect for huge projects. What is the best way to manage state in React? Well, let's get into that here. So we have a function right here. How do we get some information into this and update the information? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these three. Let's simplify this again. I'm just going to go back to the button. And now our button won't show anything because there are no props that got passed to it, right? So let's delete this. And let's say my button. Actually, let's do a little bit more of a call to action. Click me. Ronald, Tailwind is my pick. I'm a big fan of Tailwind. Okay, so let's see. We have let's say const message is equal to hey there Sayadad. Sorry if I mispronounce any names. Div, I'm going to wrap that in a div. Div. And then I'm going to show the message here in a p tag message. Cool. So now that we're here, let's say we want to click this button and update that message to be, hey there, Paco. So let's say over here, let's go on click is equal to, let's pass in a function. And we're going to say message is equal to, hey there, Paco. So before I actually click the button, will this work? If anybody in chat wants to answer, go ahead. Will clicking this button update this message right here? I'll give it a few seconds and I'll check out chat real quick. Context would be the replacement for Redux. Paco, very good question. I don't want to call it a replacement for Redux. Redux uses a lot of different concepts than just context. So I would call context the simplest state management in React. And then I would call Redux like a more fully fleshed out solution that gives you fun features like time travel, a little bit of auditing on how many events are going where. So I think they both have a place. Baruz, I got you. I got you next. Okay, so let's go. If I click this button, will this update? It does not update. And the reason for that is because React tries to be as performant as possible. And what I mean is React will render this template right here. It will render it to the browser just like it did right here. But it will say, if nothing changes, then I will not re-render what is in the browser. So to tell React to re-render something that's in the browser, we need to give it what's called state. So instead of this const message, we're going to say const message, and I'll talk about the syntax in a second, is equal to use react.useState. Hey there, Baruz. Gotcha, Baruz. So now we don't need that message right there. So will this work? The answer here is no, it will not, because we're setting the variable message right here. It doesn't update. So now what we need to do is use the set message function, which React gave us. And we can go set message. Missed that right there. So React state with this use state thing right here, what it does is it gives us a variable and it gives us a function to update that variable. So now will this update? Yes, it will. There it is. It automatically just injected it right back into the browser. And the reason for this is because React is now watching that variable. And now if that variable changes, React will automatically just say, okay, I'm going to re-render this component. So you don't have to like enter HTML. You don't have to inject anything yourself. React does it for us. So now that we have that going, also really cool, right? Let me show you what else we can do with state. So let's say we have message and set message. I'm going to change this button to an input. I got you, Burrows. We're going to change that to an input. And now, let's say we have an on-click, but we don't want the on-click event because an input isn't really like click to interact with it. It's more of a type into it, and to do that, we're going to do on-change. And if you're wondering what HTML events you can use, you can do HTML DOM events. And this right here, if you scroll down, there's like click right there, there's drag. You can just prefix these with on and attach it to an element and you can use it. So there's drag, there's like mouse over, which you'd probably use, mouse enter, which is essentially hover. There's mouse wheel, oh, that's deprecated. So on play, all of these things you can do with React. So we're gonna do on change is equal to do something here. But I wanna show you something else to clean up our code a little bit. We can actually take this function, since it's just a JavaScript function, and move this up and go function handle change. And now this can just be handle change. And now our template just got a little bit cleaner and our functionality went up into our component. What's up, Samit from Thailand? Welcome. Sabin, welcome. Yes, Lovekesh says this is DOM manipulation. Yes, this is manipulating the browser DOM using React. So let's say we are going to pull the event out, which is React passes the input event, and we're going to say set message e.target.value. And you might be wondering, well, Chris, what in the world did you just, oh, sorry, that's event. What in the world did you just write? This is where you do need to have a little bit of JavaScript knowledge. This is an HTML event, and HTML events have a target, which is that input, and you can pull the value out of that. So a lot of this is kind of just JavaScript proper. It's not React. Like this syntax right here is array destructuring. It's not React specific. And that's what I love about React. It's JavaScript. So let's see, I can type into here. Let's see, Sabin, hey. Let's say Samit, hey. Lovekesh, Osama, Abraham. And isn't that the coolest thing? That's like magic to me. I think that's amazing to be able to bind information on an event change and then just render it to our browser like that. Somali says, if we have a value in input text and we want to show it in the screen on the click of a button, how do we do that? There's a couple different ways. You can add a button right here and then do it on click. You can do handle, we can call it like update message. Like that. But now this gets into a little bit more React territory where we have to now store this value in a different place. So we're going to say value is equal to, I'm going to create a new state variable. Value set value is equal to react.useState. Sorry, I'm going to speed through this word. Wow, this actually went really fast. There's a lot of content here and we're coming up on an hour. So let's say value is right here, and then on change is equal to e set value e.target.value. Sorry, I know I'm moving a little bit quicker. And then update message is going to be set message to value. Okay, so there's a lot of moving around there. Basically, what we have is this input is bound to this value variable. And then when we click this button, we're going to set the message variable to be the value variable. So let's see if this works. Does this work? Question mark, update, and it works. So notice that I use the same concept, state, and our onChange method, and we bound the value to the value variable. A lot of these concepts that you're learning today with repetition is going to be able to help you build out larger React applications. State is in every React application you're ever going to use. Event handlers, every application you're ever going to use. Gerardo says, do you think it's better to learn full JavaScript and then start using React? I think it is. You'll never go wrong by learning the core language first and then going up to a library. But with that said, I don't think you need to spend too much time on it. Like, go find a getting started JavaScript course that's maybe 4 or 5 hours. I think that would be sufficient. Santa Treats has a question, which Gerardo answered. Wait, who answered it? Yeah, Gerardo answered it. So, is there a need for an HTML page? Check this out. We talked about React adding on to an existing HTML page, and that's why we're only injecting into this little section right here. The rest is just HTML. But you could have your entire application look like this. So your HTML would only look like this, and then React would take over and do everything, which is the way that people are kind of moving these days, I think. Okay, so can't believe how fast today went. I love it. All the questions, all the info, and we are coming up on an hour. Let's see. Can you do updates on a checkbox instead of using a button? Yes, you could actually just do like an input on change. I think that would be what type is checkbox. Is my syntax wrong? Something went wrong. I don't know what happened, but hello? Something broke? Let's see our console. Any errors down here? React error, React error. Uh-oh. Oh, well. I think this would be the syntax, right? There. Yeah, so there we go, blah, blah, blah. And then on check, it changes and updates that. So it was just a little syntax error there. Somali says context API. Yes, we can actually do a whole nother one on React State. I think that's very valuable. I know I said we'd go get real data from an API, so I actually do want to do that before we end here. And we have about 12 minutes. So thank you, Sabin, for pointing out the input self-closing. All right, let's rewind here. Let's delete all this stuff. Blah, blah, blah. And this isn't really a button anymore. Let's just call it like app. And let's just call this app. And now we don't need this closing div or opening div. We don't need props on it. Okay, so now we have a brand new React component again. Let's go get data. So we're going to call it function fetch data. We're going to go to the, I mean, it's classic. We always go to it, pokeapi.co. So sorry if I'm speeding a little bit. So this is the URL to go get some Pokemon, pokeapi.co/api/v2/Pokemon. Limit, let's do a limit of 10. And I'll click submit. Gerardo says Star Wars API. Sorry, I missed it. Okay, so it's going to be in here in the results. We're going to have 10. There's Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur, the Pokemon that I grew up with. I don't know any of the new 1,000 Pokemon or anything. So what I'm going to do is click this link right here. And this is the API call we're going to go get using React. Back in our code pen, fetch, we'll call it fetch Pokemon. We're going to say fetch this right here. We're going to say .then res.json. We're going to say .then, and we're going to say data is equal to, what are we going to do with the data? We need to store it in React state so that React is going to say, oh, let me update your view for you. And to do that, we need to bring in React state. So we're going to say const Pokemon. What's plural of Pokemon? Set Pokemon is equal to react.useState. And right now I'm going to set it to a blank array. And then when we go get the data, we can go, okay, so set Pokemon to data.results, because that's how it comes back from the API. So what we have here is a function to go get data from that API we just saw. We have a React state variable. So whenever we use set Pokemon, React goes, oh, something changed. Let me update for you. So we're going to need two things. We're going to need a button to get Pokemon. And then we're going to need to display Pokemon. And to do this, to display Pokemon, we are going to use JSX. And this is probably where you're going to get out your pitchforks and go, Chris, what is the syntax? And this syntax is how JSX loops over an array. So how JSX is going to show a list of things. And to do this, we're going to use a JavaScript function, a JavaScript method on arrays to actually take data and reformat data, and that's called javascript.map. So we're going to have Pokemon.map, and then in each of these, we're going to get the Pokemon. Let's call it one Pokemon. We're going to go div, and then we're going to show the Pokemon.name. And I know I'm speeding through this, and you probably got a little mad at this syntax. I did when I first saw it. It's what in the world are we doing here? We're doing a .map. If you think about JavaScript, if you want to take an array, reformat it into another version of itself, and then spit that out, that's a .map. And that's what I say with JSX will make you a better JavaScript developer because it's forcing you to learn JavaScript. So let's see. Once we have that, we set it to data.results, and then we display them down here. The problem is we need to hook up this button now. So let's say on click, fetch Pokemon. All right, so let's see if this will work. If I click this button right here, it did not work. Something broke. Let's go see our console. Any errors? Object error. Let's see. Button is not defined. I don't think that's us. Let's save. Click that. Let's go look at our API again. Pokemon.name. Yeah, so we have name right there. Set Pokemon data.results. Let's go and see what we have coming out of the API. I think that's probably where the problem is going to lie. So handy dandy console log data. So console log is going to spit out the data that we have. Console log. There we go. We have all of our Pokemon here. So what's the problem here? Let me remove this console.log and put it right here with Pokemon. All right, come on, 6 more minutes. Let's go. Clear that out. Get Pokemon. So we are showing the Pokemon right here. Sabin, I don't think we need the use effect. It will update because we use set Pokemon. As soon as you update state with one of these functions, it will re-render. Oh, key index. RJ, that might be it. So when you do a dot map, look at this. I got tripped up on React syntax also. Key is equal to one Pokemon dot name. And I'll talk about what this key is in a second. That didn't work either. This is embarrassing, huh? All right, so let's see. We go get Pokemon. And then we send that through. Oh, okay. Yeah, somebody called it out. My variable name is Daniel. I think all of you were yelling at me, line 20, huh? Yeah, Daniel said it. Roberto said it. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay, copy this. Paste that right there. I was calling the wrong thing. So, get Pokemon. There we go. So it works. Wow. Thank you, everybody in chat. And I guess that goes to demonstrate a lot of the errors you'll find is syntax. Like React does its best to give you simple tools and then try to get out of your way. And the rest is all you. So you saw that I already broke it by doing a variable name wrong. What a way to end it, huh? Thank you, everybody, for helping out there, though. And then the last thing I promised out to talk about was key. When React shows a whole list of things right here, it tries to be as performant as possible. So by giving it a key, React is saying, okay, I got Bulbasaur, Ivysaur. I know the 10 items that you have. So if your list changes, React doesn't want to take the whole list out and then inject a whole new list. That would be not fast if your list is like 1,000 long, right? So React with a key is able to say, okay, I'm going to look at what changed and only update the one that changed, which is very performant, very nice. So this is kind of our final example for today, but in an hour, let me see, let me just simplify that syntax. In an hour, we are able to bring in React State. We've built out our first React component. We have been able to render a list with Pokemon.map. We're able to display variables with JSX. We're able to handle event listeners with JSX. And let me show you the cool part of this is now that we have a component, we can actually reuse this component div right here. I'm going to do 3 of these things. App, close that div. So we have 3 of these, and check this out. That one works, and that one works. So by using components, we can start piecing together larger applications. And this is only an intro, as the Llama Lover, great name, has said. There is a lot more we can do with React. You can build anything with React. You look at Facebook, Instagram, I don't know, all the giant applications are using React lately. Somali says hooks and context. Definitely will do that. George, thank you for joining. React Router says Nathan. Look at this. There's so many things we can do next up with React. But really, React and the concepts you learned here today are going to enable us to build anything. And that's what I think is magical about React. You could say the same thing about Vue also, and Angular. But yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Let's see. I'm just checking through chat again. I didn't really talk about single-page applications. So the last thing I want to leave you with is to build out something a little bit more robust than a code pen. You can go to react.new, and that will open up a brand new code sandbox, which is a larger scale environment for building React apps. So that's a really fun way to do that. Osama, yes, definitely more React. Facebook is forced to use it. Facebook created it. Let's see. Santa Treats, you're very welcome. Aman, I think that's his thanks. You're welcome. Michael Barton, I appreciate that. I put a lot of work into these. So thank you for saying that. Salvador, awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. Check that out. We're at an hour. SEO with Next.js, I would say use Next-SEO package. It is fantastic. Don't use, I use that package. You're very welcome, everybody. Ronald, thank you. You're welcome. Let's see. Connect on LinkedIn. Honestly, everybody, I don't use my LinkedIn, but I can get you my Twitter, Chris__SEV. This is my Twitter. Throw that in chat if you all want to connect. So yeah, message me there. I'm always open there. Oh, Amat says Redux Thunk. Yes, we can definitely talk about Redux, state management. This is exciting because this opens up the world of React, which is unlimited. So thank you, everybody. Oh, Zom says, how to not code a SaaS part 2. Yes, I've learned a lot since that. Yeah. Eric Crenshaw, why not dev? Chris Sev, the dev. Yeah, maybe I'll change it. When we first use element.onClick, then we moved to add event listener in JSX. We use onClick. Yeah, so that actually, you don't have to do the add event listener. React does it for you. So you save the writing. React Native, I personally don't know React Native, but I mean, it can't be that hard to switch over, right? Yeah, escape room faster than getting out of Vim. It's true, I'm still in Vim. Right on, everybody. Let's wrap it up. React review. Personally, I'm a React person. I like React, but Vue is fantastic as well. Actually, the Hacktoberfest website that just went live, we built it in Vue. Next stream, if you go to digitalocean.com, and I think there's a short link for do.co/ is it Tech Talks? Yes, do.co/Tech Talks. You can see the schedule. Next stream, we can definitely do more React. I'm always happy to talk about React. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you, everybody, for joining, for chatting with me, for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one.